Welcome to Stories Junction. Let's begin today's story. I didn't want to believe it at first. You hear stories like this all the time, about coworkers, neighbors, even your best friends, but never about yourself. You tell yourself your marriage is solid, different. Those late nights at the office, the sudden phone calls interrupting dinner, the last-minute trips out of town, they're just part of the grind, a temporary rough spot. That's what I kept telling myself about Emily. For months now, her job had swallowed her whole. It started small, a late night here, an early morning there. Then it snowballed. She'd stumble through the door in Chicago looking drained, muttering a few words before disappearing into the shower. Weekends, once sacred for us, became overrun with urgent projects. Work's been insane, she'd say, brushing it off. I barely have a second to think. I wanted to trust her. God, I tried, but the doubts were piling up. The little things gnawed at me. She stopped reaching for me at night, her side of the bed growing cold. The random texts she used to send, funny memes, quick thinking of you notes, dried up. We had our quirks, our inside jokes, the stuff that made us us. Now, it was like sharing an apartment with a stranger. Then came another trip, 3 days in New York, she said. I shoved down the sick feeling in my gut, that quiet voice getting louder every day. I wasn't going to be that guy, jealous, clingy, paranoid. It was just work, I repeated to myself. But when she got back, something snapped. I was in the kitchen brewing coffee when she breezed past me, tugging her suitcase toward our bedroom. I'm beat, she groaned. That trip was a nightmare. I watched her go, unease twisting inside me. Something felt wrong. A few minutes later, I walked by the bedroom. Her suitcase sat open on the bed, and there it was, lace peeking out. Black lingerie, delicate and pricey. Nothing like the cozy cotton stuff Emily always wore. She wasn't the type for something so bold, so sexy. My mind raced. Maybe she'd picked it up on the trip? A spontaneous splurge? I almost asked, but stopped myself. Don't overreact, I thought. It's probably nothing. Still, the unease lingered, heavy and unshakable. I let it slide like an idiot. 2 days later, Emily borrowed my car. Hers was in the shop again, something about the alternator, she said. She needed to run errands and asked for my keys. Sure, I said, handing them over. Just fill it up when you're done. She flashed a quick smile and left. The next morning, I went to grab my keys from their usual spot by the door. Nothing. I checked the kitchen counter, empty. The entryway table, zilch. My coat pocket, still no luck. I frowned. I always kept them in one of those spots. It hit me. Emily had driven yesterday. Maybe she forgot to put them back. I stepped into our bedroom. The shower was running, steam curling out from the cracked bathroom door. Her purse sat on the nightstand, unzipped. I hesitated. I'd never snooped before. Never had a reason to. But this was just about my keys, right? No harm in that. I reached in, fumbling past her wallet and lip balm, until my fingers brushed something small and hard. A box. A jewelry box. My chest tightened as I pulled it out and popped it open. Inside was a diamond necklace, stunning, elegant, and way too expensive for a casual buy. My stomach sank. I hadn't given it to her. And Emily? If she'd bought something this flashy, she'd have shown it off. She loved the spotlight, the compliments. But she hadn't breathed a word about this. I stood there, the box trembling in my hands, my thoughts spinning. First the lingerie, now this? Something was off, badly off. I wanted to believe there was an innocent answer, a gift from her mom, a work perk. But deep down, I knew better. That night, I barely said a word. Emily didn't notice. She was glued to her phone, scrolling, texting, lost in her own world. She didn't ask if I was okay, didn't pick up on the tension radiating off me. When she finally crashed, I made up my mind. I waited until her breathing steadied, then slipped her phone off the nightstand and crept to the living room. Hands shaking, I unlocked it. I didn't want to find anything, but I had to know. I dug through it all, texts, emails, call logs. Nothing jumped out. Her messages were mundane, work stuff, chats with friends. No shady numbers, no late-night calls. Clean, but my gut screamed otherwise. I wasn't losing it. Something was wrong. I just couldn't pin it down. So, the next morning, I took a bigger step. I called a private investigator. His name was Mike, a no BS guy who cut straight to the point. He asked a few sharp questions, jotted notes, and got to work. At first, he turned up nothing. Emily's routine was textbook. Office in downtown Chicago, late nights, straight home. No detours, no sketchy meetups. For a second, I felt dumb. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe this was just life. People drift, marriages ebb. But then I thought of the lingerie, the necklace, the way she'd been pulling away. No, this wasn't in my head. I told Mike to keep digging. A few days later, Emily announced another trip, 3 days in Boston. She packed with her usual efficiency, humming as she zipped her suitcase. I watched her, searching her face for a crack, a hint. Nothing. She pecked my cheek, distracted. "See you in a few days, babe." Then she was gone. The second her car left the driveway, Mike tailed her. For 2 days, I was a wreck, checking my phone nonstop, jumping at every ping, spiraling when it stayed silent. By day 2, I was a mess, heart pounding, body wired. I'd braced for the worst, but when it hit, it still knocked the wind out of me. Mike called that morning, his voice steady but heavy. "James, she's not alone on this trip." My breath caught. "She's at a hotel with a guy." Nausea surged. I gripped the phone, knuckles white. "Who is he?" I rasped. A pause. "His name's Ryan. Works with her." My jaw locked. It all clicked. The late nights, the work calls, the distance. Then the kicker. He's married too. I pressed a hand to my forehead, reeling. Emily, my wife, lying to me, sneaking off with some married coworker. "About photos," Mike said. "Sending them now." My phone buzzed. I didn't want to look, but I had to. And there was proof that would change everything. My phone buzzed again, and I stared at the screen, hands trembling. I tapped it open, and there they were, Emily and Ryan, clear as day. The first photo showed them at the hotel bar in Boston, laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. Her head was tilted toward him, that smile I hadn't seen in months lighting up her face. The next one was worse, their hands brushing across the table, her eyes locked on his, the way she used to look at me. Then, them stepping into the elevator, his arms slung around her waist, her body pressed against him. The final shot was outside a hotel room. Emily leaning in, kissing him, her fingers tangled in his hair. My stomach lurched. I dropped the phone like it burned me, ball rising in my throat. That was it. No more excuses, no more denial. She'd been lying to my face, coming home to our bed, while giving herself to him. I couldn't sit still. My chest felt like it was caving in, anger and hurt clawing at me. I paced the living room, replaying every moment, the late nights, the work emergencies, the way she'd brush me off. How long had this been going on? How many times had she kissed me with that same mouth, slept beside me, pretending everything was fine? I wanted to smash something, scream, confront her right then. But she was still in Boston, oblivious, probably tangled up with Ryan while I lost my mind in Chicago. I forced myself to breathe, to think. I wasn't going to let this destroy me. She didn't get to walk away unscathed. That afternoon, I called my lawyer, Sarah. She was sharp, no nonsense, the kind of person you want in your corner when everything's falling apart. I told her everything. Emily's trips, the photos, the betrayal. "I want her out of my life," I said, voice tight. No games, no second chances. Sarah didn't flinch. "We'll start the paperwork today. You've got solid evidence. Adultery's a clean break in Illinois. She won't have much to fight with." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Good. I need this done fast." By the end of the call, the wheels were turning. Divorce papers were being drafted. I felt a flicker of control for the first time in days. The next evening, Emily came home like nothing had happened. I'd spent the day numb, running on autopilot, waiting for this moment. I heard the key turn in the lock and sat on the couch, staring at the door. She walked in, rolling her suitcase, her face tired but calm. She kicked off her shoes, dropped her bag by the entryway, and stretched. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice casual. "That trip wiped me out. How was your weekend?" I didn't move, didn't answer. My silence hung heavy, and she finally looked at me, eyebrows raised. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and held it up, the screen glowing with the photo of her and Ryan kissing outside their hotel room. Her face froze. The color drained from her cheeks as her eyes flicked to the image. Her and Ryan, lips locked, no mistaking it. For a split second, She didn't move, didn't breathe. Then she whispered, Where did you get that? I kept my voice low, cold, steady. Does it matter? She looked up at me, eyes wide, then let out a shaky, nervous laugh. James, this isn't what it looks like. I barked out a bitter laugh of my own. It's exactly what it looks like. She shook her head fast, like she could undo it. No, yes, something happened, but it's not what you think. It wasn't what? I snapped, stepping closer. I wasn't supposed to find out. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. For the first time, I saw it, the truth in her silence. She'd never planned to tell me. If I hadn't hired Mike, if I hadn't dug, she'd have kept this going, lying to me, coming home, acting like my wife while sneaking off with him. My jaw clenched so hard it ached. She tried again, softer now. James, I didn't mean for this to. I cut her off, shaking my head. I don't care what you say, Emily. Pack your stuff. You're leaving. Her eyes widened, like she hadn't expected me to go there. You're seriously throwing away 8 years over this, she said, her voice rising. I stared at her, incredulous. You threw it away the second you walked into that hotel with him. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't soften. James, please, she said, her voice cracking. We can fix this. It wasn't serious. I love you. I took a deep breath, meeting her gaze dead on. I'll send your stuff to your parents' place in Naperville. You can explain it to them. Her face crumpled. She let out a loud, messy sob, grabbing at her suitcase, still crying as she stumbled toward the door. She paused there, waiting, maybe hoping I'd stop her. I didn't. The door clicked shut behind her, and the house went silent. I sat back down, staring at the wall, my mind blank. She was gone, and I wasn't done yet. After she left, I didn't wallow. I got to work. She wasn't going to slink away and pretend this never happened. I pulled up my contacts, found her parents' numbers, and sent them the photos. Emily and Ryan at the bar, hands touching, kissing outside their room. No long explanation, just a short message. This is who your daughter is. I'm done. Her stuff's coming your way soon. Then I tracked down Ryan's wife, Lauren. I met her once at a company picnic. Quiet, sweet, didn't deserve this. I sent her the same photos with a simple note. Thought you should know. Your husband's been cheating with my wife. My phone buzzed minutes later. Lauren's reply was short, brutal. Thank you. I'm leaving him. No drama, just done. I gripped my phone, a grim satisfaction settling in. Emily had torched her life, and now Ryan's was burning too. The next few days were a blur. Sarah finalized the divorce papers, and I signed them without hesitation. I wasn't giving Emily a dime more than I had to. Illinois law was on my side, and the photos sealed it. The house felt empty, but not in a bad way. It was quieter, lighter, like I could breathe again. No more tiptoeing around her distance. No more faking it. I started boxing up her stuff, clothes, books, that damn necklace, and shipped it to her parents. Every item I packed felt like peeling off a weight I'd been carrying too long. A week later, Mike called with an update. Thought you want to know? Ryan cut her loose. I blinked, leaning against the kitchen counter. What? Yeah, he said. Word is, after his wife found out, he panicked. Dumped Emily to save his own skin. She's on her own now. I almost laughed. After blowing up 2 marriages, after throwing away 8 years with me, Ryan didn't even want her. She'd gambled everything for a fling and lost. Thanks, Mike, I said, hanging up. I stood there, staring out the window at the Chicago skyline. For the first time in months, I felt something like relief. Emily was gone, her life in pieces. And me? I was just getting started. The days after Emily left stretched out in a strange, quiet haze. I wasn't mourning her, not exactly. It was more like the house itself was adjusting, shedding the tension that had built up over months. No more clipped conversations over dinner. No more forced smiles to keep the peace. Just silence and me. I didn't miss her presence as much as I'd expected. What I felt was relief, sharp and clean, like I'd finally cut loose an anchor dragging me down. But there was still work to do. I wasn't about to let her betrayal define me, and I sure as hell wasn't going to live in the wreckage she'd left behind. The divorce moved fast. Sarah, my lawyer, was a machine, papers filed, assets locked down, everything airtight. Illinois doesn't mess around with adultery cases, and those photos of Emily and Ryan were gold. She wouldn't get a penny more than the bare minimum, and I made damn sure of it. I sold the house, too. It was a nice place, 3 bedrooms, big windows, a view of Lake Michigan, but every corner reeked of her. The kitchen where she'd scroll her phone instead of talking to me. The bedroom where she'd started sleeping with her back turned. I didn't want it anymore. I found a new spot, a sleek apartment in the Loop, smaller, modern mine. No ghosts, no memories. Just a fresh start. Packing up was cathartic. I tossed out anything that felt like us. Old photos, that tacky lamp she loved, the mismatched mugs we collected. Her stuff, clothes, books, that diamond necklace I still didn't know the story behind, went into boxes and shipped off to her parents in Naperville. I didn't leave a note. They'd figure out when she showed up, tail between her legs. Every box I sealed felt like a brick off my chest. By the time I moved into the new place, I was lighter, unburdened. The view from my new window, Chicago's skyline glittering at night, felt like a promise. I threw myself into rebuilding. Work became my lifeline. I let it slide these past few months, distracted by the slow rot of my marriage. Now, I poured everything into it. Late nights at the office, new projects, anything to keep my mind sharp. I hit the gym too hard, running along the lakefront, lifting weights until my muscles burned. It wasn't just about staying in shape. It was about feeling alive again, taking back control. Friends noticed the shift. "You look good, man," my buddy Chris said over beers one night. "Like you're back." I nodded, sipping my IPA. "I am." Emily tried reaching out a few times. First a text, "Can we talk?" 2 days after she left. I didn't reply. Then a voicemail, her voice shaky. "James, I know I messed up. Please, just hear me out." I deleted it without listening to the rest. A week later, an email landed in my inbox, long and rambling. Something about regret, about how it didn't mean anything with Ryan. I skimmed it, then trashed it. She didn't get to claw her way back with apologies. She made her choice in that Boston hotel room. Now she could live with it. Word got around fast. Chicago's a big city, but gossip travels like wildfire. Chris filled me in one night at a bar in Wicker Park. Heard from a guy at her firm. Emily's a mess. Ryan dumped her right after his wife bailed, and now she's persona non grata at work. People know. I leaned back in my chair, swirling my drink. Good. It wasn't petty satisfaction. It was justice. She'd torched 2 marriages, played everyone, and now she was reaping the fallout. Chris raised an eyebrow. "You okay with all this?" I shrugged. "Better than I've been in a while." A few weeks later, I got the final piece of the puzzle. Mike, the PI, called out of the blue. "Thought you'd want the full picture," he said. Dug a little deeper on Ryan. I leaned against my kitchen counter, curious. "Yeah, guy's a serial cheater. Emily wasn't the first. Had a thing with a receptionist a couple years back. His wife only stuck around cause of the kids. This time, she'd had enough." I let out a low whistle. "And Emily?" Mike paused. "She's crashing with a friend in Lincoln Park. Word is, she's drinking a lot, trying to figure out her next move. Ryan won't even take her calls." I almost laughed. She'd thrown everything away for a guy who saw her as disposable. "Thanks, Mike," I said. "Appreciate it." He grunted. "Take care, James." That night, I stood on my balcony, the city sprawling out below me. Emily's life was imploding. Her marriage gone, her affair dead, her reputation shot. And me? I was free. The divorce was finalized a week later. Sarah called to confirm. "It's done. You're clear." I thanked her, hung up, and poured myself a whiskey. No more ties, no more lies. I protected what was mine and walked away clean. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. Not the guy who'd been gaslit and ignored, but the James I'd lost somewhere along the way. I started living on my terms. Work was good, better than good. I landed a promotion, a corner office with a view. The gym became a ritual, my body stronger than it had been in a decade. I reconnected with old friends, hit up Cubs games at Wrigley, grabbed late-night tacos and Pilsen. Life felt full, not forced. One night, I ran into a mutual friend, Lauren, not Ryan's wife, but someone who'd known us both. We were at a bar in River North, the kind with overpriced cocktails and too loud music. She spotted me, waved me over. "Hey, stranger," she said, grinning. "You look different." I smirked. "Good different, I hope." She nodded. "Definitely. Heard about Emily." Rough stuff. I shrugged. She made her bed. Lauren sipped her drink, then leaned in. Saw her a couple weeks ago at some dive in Logan Square. She was alone, pounding vodka sodas. Looked like hell. I raised an eyebrow, waiting. She asked about you, Lauren added. Wanted to know if you were okay. I told her you were better than ever. I chuckled, shaking my head. She doesn't get to care now. Lauren nodded, understanding. She's lost, James. Like she doesn't know who she is without you. Or him. I finished my drink, the ice clinking in the glass. Not my problem anymore. That was the moment it hit me. I didn't care. Not about her misery. Not about her regret. She was a stranger now, someone I used to know. I paid my tab, said goodbye to Lauren, and stepped out into the cool Chicago night. The air was crisp, the streets alive with noise and light. I walked home, hands in my pockets, feeling lighter than I had in years. Revenge wasn't the point, never had been. It was about taking my life back. And damn, it felt good. The weeks after the divorce finalized felt like a new chapter, one I hadn't realized I'd been waiting to write. Chicago hummed around me, its chaos, its energy, and I dove into it head first. My new apartment in the Loop became my sanctuary, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city like a living painting. I'd purged every trace of Emily from my life, and with it, the weight of her lies. Work was firing on all cylinders. I'd snagged that promotion, a bigger paycheck, and a view from the 30th floor that made every late night worth it. The gym stayed my escape, sculpting me into someone I barely recognized in the mirror, stronger, sharper. Life wasn't just moving forward, it was mine again. Emily's attempts to reach me tapered off. The texts stopped, the voicemails dried up. I figured she'd finally gotten the hint, or maybe she'd just run out of steam. I didn't care either way. Word trickled in through the grapevine, though. Chris, always the one with the latest scoop, caught me up over wings at a sports bar in Lakeview one Sunday. She's still a wreck, he said, dipping a drumstick in hot sauce. Heard she's bouncing between friends' couches. Lost her job, too. I raised an eyebrow, wiping my hands on a napkin. Yeah. He nodded. Firm didn't like the drama. Ryan's still there, though. Guess he's got more pull. She's pissed, but what's she gonna do? I leaned back, processing it. Emily, jobless, adrift, clinging to whatever scraps she could find. Part of me, the part that remembered 8 years of shared laughs and quiet mornings, felt a flicker of something. Not pity, exactly, but a distant echo of what used to be. Then I thought of her in that hotel room with Ryan, her hand in his, and it vanished. She dug her own grave, I said, taking a swig of my beer. Chris smirked. Cool, man. But fair. I shrugged. Just facts. Ryan's world was crumbling too, from what I heard. Lauren, his wife, hadn't wasted time. She'd filed for divorce the day after I sent her those photos, and she wasn't playing nice. A mutual acquaintance told me she'd hired a shark of a lawyer, going after everything. House, savings, custody of their 2 kids. Ryan was scrambling, but he'd burned too many bridges. Guy's a mess, the acquaintance said over coffee one morning. Keeps trying to spin it like he's the victim. Nobody's buying it. I nodded, stirring my espresso. Good. Let him squirm. I didn't keep tabs on them intentionally. It just found me. Chicago's big, but it's got a small-town vibe when it comes to gossip. People love a scandal, and this one had legs. Emily and Ryan had been sloppy, thinking they could sneak around without consequences. Now they were both paying the price. Her with her imploded life, him with a divorce that'd leave him broke and alone. I didn't feel bad for either of them. They'd rolled the dice and lost. Meanwhile, I kept building. I started saying yes to things. Weekend trips with friends to Milwaukee, late-night jazz, shows in the West Loop, even a blind date a coworker set up. The date didn't go anywhere, nice girl, but no spark, but felt good to try. I wasn't rushing into anything. I was just living. One night, I ended up at a rooftop bar in the South Loop with Chris and a few others. The skyline sparkled, the air warm with late summer heat. You're different, man, Chris said, clinking his glass against mine. Like lighter. I grinned. Guess I am. Then came the run-in. It was a Friday, maybe 2 months after the divorce. I was grabbing a coffee at a spot in Logan Square. Small place, good brew, when I saw her. Emily. She was at a table by the window, alone, staring into a mug like it held all the answers. She looked rough, hair messy, eyes sunken, a far cry from the polished woman I'd married. I froze for a second, debating whether to turn around and leave. But she glanced up, caught my eye, and it was too late. She straightened, hesitated, then waved me over, tentative, like she wasn't sure I'd come. I could have walked out. Should have, maybe. But something, curiosity, closure, I don't know, pulled me to her table. "Hey," she said, voice small. "Hey," I replied, staying standing. No point in getting comfortable. She fidgeted with her mug, then looked up. "You look good, James." I nodded. "Thanks." Silence stretched, awkward and heavy. She swallowed, then said, "I'm sorry. For everything." I held up a hand. "Don't. I didn't come over here for that." Her eyes glistened, but she nodded. "Okay. I miss you. I messed up so bad." I studied her. No makeup, no fight left in her. She wasn't the Emily I'd known, not anymore. "Yeah, you did," I said, keeping my tone even. "But that's on you, not me." She bit her lip, tears spilling over. "I lost everything. Ryan, my job, I don't even know who I am anymore." I didn't flinch. "You'll figure it out. Or you won't. Either way, it's not my problem." She flinched like I'd slapped her, but I didn't soften. I'd spent too long carrying her weight. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered. I let out a short, dry laugh. "Doesn't matter what you meant. You did." She looked down, hands trembling around her mug. I stepped back. "Take care, Emily." That was it. I turned and walked out, the bell above the door chiming as it swung shut. The air outside hit me, cool and crisp, and I kept walking, not looking back. She wasn't my burden anymore. Later that night, I met up with friends at a dive bar in Pilsen. We played pool, laughed over cheap beer, and for the first time, I didn't feel her shadow lurking in the back of my mind. Seeing her hadn't rattled me. It had freed me. She was a ghost of a life I'd left behind, and I was done haunting it. I sank the 8-ball, grinned at Chris's macaron, and felt the night stretch out ahead of me, open, unweighted. I was good. Better than good. I was me again, and that was enough. The encounter with Emily at the coffee shop didn't linger like I thought it might. It was a blip, a final loose and snip clean. By the time I got home that night, it was already fading, replaced by the hum of my new life. Chicago kept spinning, its horns blaring, its lights flashing, and I was right there with it, no longer tethered to the past. The apartment in the Loop felt more like home every day, its bare walls slowly filling with pieces of me. A framed shot of Wrigley Field, a shelf of books I actually wanted to read, a record player spinning Springsteen on quiet nights. I wasn't rebuilding to prove anything to her or anyone else. I was doing it for myself. Work hit a new stride. The promotion had opened doors, and I was killing it, leading projects, closing deals, earning nods from the higher-ups. My office overlooked the river, and some days I'd catch myself staring out at the water, marveling at how far I'd come. The gym stayed a constant, too. I'd traded late-night spirals for early-morning runs along the lakefront, the city waking up around me as I pounded the pavement. My body was leaner, tougher, a testament to the discipline I'd carved out. Friends noticed. Chris kept joking I'd be on a fitness cover soon. But it wasn't about looks. It was about feeling unbreakable. Emily's name popped up less and less. The gossip mill had moved on, chasing fresher scandals. The last I heard, she'd taken a low-level job somewhere in the suburbs. Oak Park, maybe, try and claw her way back. Ryan was still floundering, too, from what trickled in. Lauren had cleaned him out in the divorce. House, savings, most of his paycheck gone to child support. He'd moved into some cramped rental in Evanston, still clinging to his job by a thread. Their affair had cost them everything, and I couldn't muster an ounce of sympathy. They'd built their castles on sand, and the tide had come in. I kept living. Weekends became mine again, tailgates at Soldier Field, brewery crawls in Andersonville, road trips to Michigan with the guys. I started dating too. Nothing serious, just dipping my toes back in. There was a woman from work, Megan, who I grabbed drinks with a few times. Sharp, funny, no baggage. It didn't turn into much, but it reminded me I could still feel that spark, that I wasn't closed off for good. I wasn't hunting for a replacement or a rebound. I was just open, and that felt like enough. One night, I ran into Lauren, Ryan's ex-wife, at a charity event downtown. She was there with a friend, sipping wine near the silent auction table. I hadn't seen her since that company picnic years back, but she recognized me right away. "James, right?" she said, smiling faintly. "Yeah," I replied, shaking her hand. "Good to see you, Lauren." She looked good, calmer, steadier than I'd expected after everything. "You too," she said. "Heard you're doing well." I nodded. "Can't complain." "You?" She shrugged, a small grin tugging at her lips. "Better now. Took a while, but I'm free." We chatted for a bit, swapping war stories. She'd kicked Ryan out the day she got those photos. No hesitation. "I'd suspected for years," she admitted, swirling her glass. "But seeing it, that was the push I needed." I told her about Emily's spiral, the way she'd crumbled after Ryan cut her loose. Lauren raised an eyebrow. "Karma's a hell of a thing." I laughed, short and sharp. "Sure is." Before we parted, she squeezed my arm. "Thanks again, James, for sending those pictures. You saved me too." I nodded. Glad it worked out. It wasn't some grand moment, just two people who'd survived the same storm, crossing paths on the other side. The seasons shifted, fall bleeding into winter, the city blanketed in snow. I spent Thanksgiving with Chris and his family in Lincoln Park, a loud, warm mess of food and football. Christmas was quieter, just me and a bottle of bourbon, watching the lights twinkle along Michigan Avenue from my balcony. I didn't feel alone, not in the way I had during those last months with Emily. This was different. This was peace. I'd stopped looking over my shoulder, stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. The life I'd built was solid, mine in a way it hadn't been in years. One frigid January night, I met Chris at a bar in Old Town. The place was packed, all leather booze and dim lights, the kind of spot where you could lose yourself in the noise. We were halfway through our second round when he brought her up. "Saw Emily last week," he said, casual like it was nothing. I raised an eyebrow, waiting. "She was at some dive in Humboldt Park, drinking alone. Looked rough, man. Asked about you again." I took a sip of my whiskey, letting it burn down my throat. "Yeah? What did you say?" He grinned. "Told her you're living your best life." She didn't like that much. I smirked. "Too bad." He studied me for a second, then nodded. "You don't care anymore, do you?" I leaned back, rolling the glass between my hands. "Nope. She's a stranger now." Chris clinked his beer against mine. "Good for you, man." We dropped it after that, moving on to talk about the Bears' latest loss, the cold snap hitting the city. Emily didn't matter. Not her misery, not her regrets. She was a chapter I'd closed, a weight I'd shed. Spring crept in, the snow melting into slush, the air softening. I kept going, work, runs, nights out with friends. One evening, I was at a rooftop spot in the West Loop, the skyline glowing gold in the sunset. Chris was there, a few others too, all of us laughing over some dumb story from college. I leaned against the railing, beer in hand, watching the city stretch out below me. It hit me then, quiet but sure, I was happy. Not the forced kind I'd faked with Emily, not the fleeting kind that comes with revenge. Real, steady happiness, built from the ground up. That was the win. Not her downfall, not Ryan's ruin, but this. Me, standing tall, living on my terms. I'd lost a marriage, sure, but I'd gained something better, myself. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of orange and pink, I knew I wouldn't trade that for anything. The past was gone. The future? Wide open. And for the first time in a long damn time, I couldn't wait to see what was next.